So good day, people of the internet. Today we're going to talk about my Frankenbuild, which is a Portuguese-built AJP PR5 with a IT465 motor stuffed in it. Why did I do this? Well, I've been a lifelong motorcycle fan. Had all kinds of bikes, dirt bikes, dual sport bikes, adventure bikes, street bikes. I've had them all. I've ridden hundreds of bikes. Worked in the motorcycle industry for a couple of decades, and did early retirement. I got a little time on my hands, and this has been a project that's been sitting around for a while. This was a great bike in stock form. Had a 250 four-stroke motor in it, a modern one, EFI, electric start, all the goodies. I ended up breaking third gear in that, or something happened to third gear. It's a weird thing. It slips, but it doesn't make any noise. It's weird. I don't know what's going on. But I've had this Frankenbuild project in the works for a while. This motor was originally going to go in an RMZ 250 or RM250F or whatever they called it back then. It was a steel frame one right before they went to aluminum frame Suzuki RM250Fs. Ended up selling that bike, and I really wanted to put it in this bike, and here's why. So I wanted to build kind of a single track Slayer, but a weird one, just one for the fun of it. And I've always loved this bike in the single track. It's a really compact bike. It's super narrow because the tank's in the back. There's no tank up front. It's super narrow. It handles amazing. I'll tell you some attributes of the bike as we go along. Which is part of the reason I wanted to do this. But I always just like the balance with the tank in the middle and the super slim bike, and I just feel it handles amazing in the single track. So I decided to start with this platform. Once I stuffed the motor in here, I realized how much room there was and how this was going to be not an easy build, but not a super hard build either. So let's talk about the PR5 and some of the attributes I really like about that before we talk about stuffing the motor in and why I chose this motor and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, like I said, this is a fully modern bike. It has great geometry, which is one of the things I like about it. It has really high-end sack sports that are dual chamber, fully adjustable, CNC triple clamps, nitrate-coated forks. This is all factory, and some of the best off-road single-track forks I've ever had stock. Sachs rear shock, which I've had many of, and they're great. No problems with it. None of this has been revalved or resprung, and it was a little soft for me initially, but putting this motor in it and getting rid of all the battery and the wiring and all the stuff that went along with it, I dropped 38 pounds on this bike. So it's a much lighter bike, and now, honestly, the suspension's almost perfect because it was a little soft before, and now it's not dealing with 38 pounds that it was dealing with before. So it's pretty much ideal. So love the platform, love the ergonomics, love how it handled, love the suspension. So I thought, great platform, I'm going to do this. Bought an IT465, a little bike, quite a while ago. It's been 3-4 years ago, at least. Had the motor sitting around out of the bike. Actually had the motor completely apart because I was going to machine the cases so that the swing arm bolt would fit on the RM. But this one, it does fit. So I started off by just throwing the motor in there, getting it located, moving it side to side to make sure I could line the chain up correctly, and that everything fit. And it did. Surprisingly, it fit really well. And this motor is considerably smaller than the stock motor, especially the bottom end. So there's a ton of space down here to work with. And obviously there's nothing up in here, so the battery's gone and all that. The airbox is usually right under the seat on this bike. So anyway, once I got the motor located in there, I'm like, oh, this is going to work out pretty good. So I built some I have laying around here somewhere, some mounts that basically went from the stock mounts up to the motor mounts on this. It was like a couple of aluminum plates. And so I got the motor located in there and started talking to some friends about somebody that could build me a pipe, because I don't really have the right stuff to bend and weld and to do that. A crappy little welder here that I can tack some stuff together, but nothing I really wanted to do and work with. And ended up taking it over to a local guy. His name's Jay. He's got a machine shop and does oddball work, and has worked on bikes before, and has done various pipes and stuff for vintage bikes. And so I took it over to him. Told him what I wanted to do. We started discussing some things, and he says, "Well, I can do the motor mounts and stuff for you." And I'm like, "Well, great. That really puts me ahead." So dropped it off at his house. He built the pipe, which is a crazy pipe that comes out this side, goes around, fits up inside the shroud here, goes across, drops down, comes under the carburetor, and meets up with this YZ250 muffler. So it's a three-piece pipe that stakes all the way around the bike and out. We tried to use most of the stock pipe just so that the expansion part was correct. The top of it's actually a Husky 400 pipe. I had 4 or 5 pipes I dropped off with him and said, "Hey, try to keep this as close to stock as possible, but I understand you got to move things around and do whatever." So he built the pipe, he built the engine guard or the engine mounts. We had the engine all in, which was a huge leap forward. Then I'm like, wow, okay, now I just got to get the peripherals happening, and I could actually ride this thing this year, which was pretty amazing because this thing, like I said, has been sitting around for years without the motor in it and just sitting in the corner. So it was nice to get this thing rolling and start to actually see the bike coming through this process. So once we got it all in, the motor mounts in, and they're welded in. I mean, it's a full on. Those motor mounts aren't going anywhere. It's done right now. I'll be showing some pictures here of the welding and the brackets that we did and the pipe and all that. So we had the major stuff done. We had the motor located, mounted in. We got the pipe. It's fitted in. So now, like I said, I need to do all the peripherals. And part of that was getting the Kickstarter to work. And as you can see, this frame, it did have a little cutout, but it wasn't near big enough. So we had to cut the aluminum frame out, which was a little unnerving for me, but he adjusted the back of it and everything, and I don't see any problems. I've had it out for 6 or 7 rides now. It's not cracking. There's no problems. I'm not doing 120-foot triples, so just riding it through the woods on some single track. So anyway, we cut that out. That's all fixed now. Works great. This Kickstarter is actually off of YZ250. The stock one sticks straight up like this. It's a big metal thing. So it lost a pound or two, and it just fit in there perfect. It fits the frame, fits everything. Doesn't touch the motor. Doesn't stick out further than the clutch cover. So that was a big win. So got the motor in there, got the Kickstarter working, so now we're in business, right? So I'm thinking, okay, I had a brand new electron carb I was going to put on this. The 2 problems with the electron carb and why it didn't end up on this bike. One, they're very long carburetors, and I don't have a ton of room because this has to go up into an airbox this way. So I didn't have a lot of room to come back. And a buddy of mine has a YZ250 PWK 38mm carb laying around. He says, "Hey, try this." And I put that on there, rejetted it, got it all set up. And I'm like, okay, well, we're close to getting this thing fired up and actually, having to ride on the bike. And so I took it out to a local riding area. I hauled it to the top of the hill because I didn't want to kick with aluminum jetting, ruin the cases and, ruin my knee and, all that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start at the top of the hill. And I'm glad I did this because once I got it started, I had it jetted way too rich. I mean, it was amazing to even start. It was super blubbery, just didn't want to idle, barely would get out of its own way. And I'm like, okay, so had a bunch of jets and needles with me, started rejetting it on my 3rd iteration. It's actually running pretty good. I still got a little bit of fine tuning to do to it, but it's actually running really good now. So got the carb jetted, got the carb mounted in there. So let's talk about the motor for a second. The motor is basically a stock IT465 Yamaha motor that I pulled out of a running bike. I rode the bike before. I knew the motor was, not in brand new shape, but, it was a running motor and all that. And when I had it all apart to look at machining the cases for the RM motor or RM chassis, I did notice the crank bearings are in, the pistons in. It's all usable stuff, but it's not new. So I will be pulling this apart and rebuilding it at some point. I just wanted to get this rideable bike. And so got the motor in, got it all running, got the jetting good enough to ride, used a 90-degree turbo silicone elbow for a turbo inlet for a car. It's what fit in there. It comes up, turns, and then it's got a uni pod filter, a foam one, on top of that. And it's just sitting right here. So that all went together well, and like I said, got it running and riding. And first couple of rides, I was like, wow, this is actually pretty good. Two things I didn't like. The clutch was really hard to pull, even with the brand new cable and lubed up lever and all that. It's hard to pull, and I'm riding it in super tight stuff where I need to modulate and get over roots and rocks and pick my way through stuff, and kind of hard enduro stuff, only not that hard. So I needed a clutch I could depend on, and it just felt jerky, and I couldn't, it was hard to pull. So after about 20 times of pulling it, it wasn't fun anymore, and I couldn't really modulate it that well. So that was one of the first things I addressed. I want a Magura hydraulic clutch, which I'll probably eventually get, but just to test the idea, I bought this hydro clutch off Amazon. It was literally $25 for the whole thing shipped to my door. The master cylinder, braided steel line, and slave cylinder. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, and I fully expected it wasn't going to work at all. And I got it here, I installed it, works great. I had to do some adjustment and kind of some finagling and some moving around and some things to make it happen, but it's a smooth two-finger job that I can run like a trials bike, and I have that clutch engagement that's super defined and easy and detailed, and I can use the clutch, and it does exactly what I need it to now, and it's a little two-finger job. It's brilliant. So that's addressed. That's working great. Like I said, I'd like to go to a higher quality Magura hydraulic clutch at some point, but this one's actually working substantially better than I thought it would. Wasn't sure if it was going to work at all. It works fine. Talked to a couple of friends of mine that have vintage bikes. They've all run them and had no problems with them. So maybe it'll stay, maybe not. We'll see. So that was addressed. The other thing was starting it. I've had probably, 10 or 15 big bore two-strokes, several of them left side kickstarters like Huskies and the CR480, Honda, and some bikes like that. So I'm not new to starting a big bore two-stroke like 400cc and bigger. I've had all kinds of bikes like that, 500s and 400s and 450s and all kinds of two-stroke big bores. So I can start them. That's not the problem. There's two things. One, like I said, I'm riding it in tight technical stuff. So if I get like off the trail a little bit, or I'm stuck on a hill, or I'm sliding backwards down the hill, or whatever, I'm in a not ideal situation to get the bike started, which you kind of need. You have to stock, you have to kind of rotate it to a spot and get it just right and give it one big kick, and it usually starts every time, which that's not the problem. The problem is, like I said, when you're all off camber and on a slick hill and you're trying to start it, that's a problem. That, and the other thing is, I wanted it to kick easier because breaking cases on a big two-stroke when you kick them is a thing, and I've done it. I had a Husky, what was that, WR400, like an 86, and I broke the cases on that trying to get it started. So I wanted to avoid those two things. So I got what's actually a chainsaw compression release that the same guy that did motor mounts and stuff machined it into the head. The funny thing is, so I bought an extra head off eBay so I didn't have to ruin my stock head. And there's actually a landing past into the fins for the decompression release. So it was a thing they thought of from the factory. So anyway, I had the whole machine for that. There's kind of a technique to do that so that if it ever fails, it can't drop into the combustion chamber. You basically make a cavity for the thing and then a smaller hole. So if the plunger part ever falls out of the decompression release, which is a super simple little, almost looks like a valve in a valve seat. You just push it down, and when the motor starts, it has enough compression, it kicks it back off. So it's semi-automatic. You push it down with your thumb and kick it until it starts, and then away you go. You don't have to release it. So anyway, got that all installed. Game changer. The thing starts like a 125 or 250. Cold, put the clutch or put the choke on, push the button, kick it once, it's running. Warm, same thing. Hit the button, kick it, it's running. You do have to give it a little whack of throttle when it's warm. If you don't twist the throttle a bit, like a typical two-stroke, but maybe even a little more. But it's a pretty much a one-kick starter every time, which is amazing. And it's not stressing the cases out. It's not going to make the Kickstarter floppy quicker. It's brilliant. It works great. Highly recommend that mod. So, other than the pipe being a custom pipe, the PWK 38 air striker carb and B-Force 3 reed valves, the motor stock. The IT motor has a bigger flywheel, a lighting foil, and a wider range transmission than the YZ465. The YZ465 definitely has more hit and more power. This one's smoother and honestly probably much better for what I'm doing with this bike. So anyway, let's talk about the bike real quick. I probably should have started there, but this is a really unusual bike made in Portugal. They've been importing them for quite a while. They're great little bikes. I've had the air-cooled 240 version of this. I've had this water-cooled 250 version. They make a bunch of other versions now. They don't even make this bike anymore. They've kind of changed it. It's got the same motor as my 2024 SWMRS 300R, which is a great motor. It's an old Husqvarna motor. That's the whole story within itself. And I actually have a video on that if you want to go see that. Anyway, so this bike has kind of evolved from AJP, and they don't really make this bike anymore, but they do use the same unique technique in that it's got an aluminum mid-frame, it's got the tank in the back, and the front is steel, which I'm not sure the idea behind all that, other than just to make the middle of it more compact and lighter. I think is why they went to this kind of bolted together design. It did make it really easy for me to work on and put the motor in because you can kind of take it apart. I'll show some pictures here of what it looks like. I'll take it apart. It makes it really easy to get in and align everything and adjust it and get all the spacers made for the motor to the frame to the swing arm and do all that. So anyway, just a really cool design. I like the layout of this bike. It's very very well put together. It's got a billet filler cap. It's got the machining work is really nice on everything. The finish is nice. The suspension's excellent. Love the geometry. The bike handles great. So I've got a bike I really like. I've got the motor in it, and now I've been riding it. And honestly, it's a great bike. It's unusual, as you'd expect. It vibrates a lot, as you would think. It's fairly loud. It's got a lot of ringing from the piston and the fins, like any typical big bore air-cooled two-stroke. But it's got ridiculous bottom end power, and it's smooth. You can ride this thing around in third on super tight, trails where there's corners that are blocking speed because it's full of ruts and roots and it's step ups and all that. And this thing will idle right through that stuff. As you can see from the videos, it's never revving. This thing, the top end needs jetted on this, and it's not really critical for me because it's like it has so much bottom and mid, and it vibrates so hard on top. You never really use the top end. You short shift it and you grunt it around in it, and doing that, it gets amazing traction because you're grunting, you're not spinning it, and it's just amazing. It's a different experience to ride this bike for sure. It's people are like, oh wow, that thing must be a wheelie monster, and it'll wheelie, and it does that big bore, that roar, where it'll just kind of pull the front end up like real easy. It doesn't go rick, it doesn't rev quick. It's a big bore two-stroke with a big flywheel, so it almost feels like a diesel or something. It's just real methodical, just pulling off the bottom all the time. And with that clutch the way it is now, and the power the way it is, it's a fun ride through through the woods. Like I said, it takes a little different technique. And the stock bike, it's funny, the stock bike didn't make a bunch of bottoms, so you kind of had to keep it on the boil and be shifting gears and all this. This is completely different. You put it in 1 or 2 gears and ride almost all day and barely use the clutch. I mean, you can, like I said, it'll go around a 90 or a 180, like tight corner in the woods in third and just go right out of the corner. Never wants to stall. I'm not sure if I'm stalling. I don't think I have. So anyway, that's I'll show you some detailed stuff, some pictures, and some video. I mean, I've kind of been finalizing it and detailing some stuff. I put, a different shifter on it to get it the right space from the foot peg. I've done a lot of stuff with the throttle, and I've got a foam mount on it. I did the hydro clutch, and I just got the handguards on it. And I've been slowly refining it. I put a Trail Tech kickstand on it. It's lighter, and the big metal floppy one was flopping too much and driving me nuts. So I managed to get one of those on there. It's not made for this bike, but I made it work. Let me flip this around. We'll talk about the other side of it. So here's the other side of the bike. Pretty exciting, I know. This could be run better, but it was so short I had to run it like that. So I'm going to do the longer one, run it down, across the front and down through the frame. I'll do that eventually. It came with really nice bars and CNC triple clamps and all that. I didn't need to change any of that. Like I said, it has amazing high-end forks on it. Put a really fancy billet kill switch. That's good for 3 horsepower. Oh wait, no, that kills all of the horsepower. Like I said, the hydro clutch. The pipe routing is really nice. It's tucked in really tight, fits up under the shroud, goes right along here. It goes right down in here, across the bottom. It pops out this side and out. And it's I want to say it's a work of art, but it's kind of an ugly pack together thing. But it works, and it is what it is. I did build myself a little skid plate, especially for the pipe that comes around and mounts to the engine here or to the frame here and here. It loops around the pipe because we do a lot of log crossings and step ups, and this is a one-off pipe, and I didn't want to smash it. So I built that for it using the Takomoto Quick Connect filter, which is awesome. I unplugged that just so I don't have any problems with it flooding into the cases when I'm not riding it. Came stock with billet foot pegs, which are nice. Like I said, I put the Trail Tech kickstand on there. It's much lighter and fits up in there real tight. Works well. Has a nice fully adjustable sack shock. I guess other than that, there's not much to tell you. It is what it is. It's a Portuguese trail bike with an IT465 motor in it, and it's super fun to ride. If you're in the Northwest and want to hook up and check this thing out, let me know. Go out for a ride, and you can laugh at me, and we'll have a good time. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for following along here. Like and subscribe. Yeah, baby. I got like 220 subscribers. I'm on my way. We're pretty much monetized. Okay, now we're going to spend it all on this. Anywho, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you got any questions. I know it's a unique bike and a unique build. If you got any questions, let me know. And I'll do my best to answer them. But anyway, you guys have fun out on the trail, and I'll talk to you later.